Matt with Bernstein Shores joining us. Matt Saldaña is on the GMI Studios lines. Matt, on our network of news talk stations, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Well, thanks for being with us. A lot to talk about here, but you media and marketing law practice, and boy, this is changing by the week, by the month. Am I wrong or right, Matt? I mean, things are so different.
You said it.
I mean, if you and I had chatted years ago, and I used to say this when I'd give media talks post my WMUR TV days, because I remember, Matt, you ready? This will be mind-blowing, but I want to get to your practice and what we should know, because so much social media has changed everything, but people may not be aware. But there was a time not long ago in New Hampshire where you just had fixed networks. You didn't have cable. You didn't have Fox, MSNBC, NBC. You didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter. We didn't have any of this stuff. And I remember when Fox started up and Ted Turner got CNN going, and it kind of competed with cable. And now social media is just obliterated sort of traditional media models. Radio, like this news talk show, we do well because we're on the phone. We're an app. People can listen anywhere, anytime. But, you know, it's changed everything. So really, and I think the biggest part of this now is technology and the digital stuff. But what should businesses think about when they even look at media and marketing law? Because a lot of this ties into their own communications, employee communications, their marketing, correct?
Yeah, no, exactly what you said, Jack. I mean, I think that's where they should start, where things have really changed, and to think about media and marketing differently than it was even 5-10 years ago. You mentioned social media, and there's a lot of marketing that can be done there and is being done. And the various federal agencies like the FTC, state regulators are paying attention. And that's where they're actually devoting a lot of resources in the recent years to monitoring what businesses do, making sure they stay within the guardrails and that they are marketing truthfully and advertising truthfully. And just one example, since you mentioned Twitter, Elon Musk, one thing that folks are probably used to seeing is influencer marketing, which is, it could be anyone from a big celebrity name to, just sort of a local customer posting on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook about your company. And what some companies might not realize is that the same rules apply there, that they cannot say anything if they're being paid by you to market your product or your services. They can't say anything you couldn't say otherwise. And, so they need to be truthful, and they need to, the second thing is they need to sort of disclose their, the fact that this is an endorsement. And so there's a bunch of new rules in that area. And like you said, Jack, they're all changing very rapidly, and a bunch of different sort of intersecting sets of rules, federal, state, local. And as you mentioned, a lot of it intersects with the technology and data as well.
Well, Matt, if I'm a local business, regional, local, and I use social media to advertise a service or a product, how truthful do I have to be in that social media video or post or picture? And do federal folks pay attention to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would surprise a lot of folks, but as you're well aware, there's some tight regulations and rules around, if you see a commercial on TV or a radio ad, it needs to be truthful. Basically, it needs to meet the same standard, and they are paying attention. They see that that's where a lot of the activity is, and that's where there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to get new customers, to reach new people, and so really, I think companies should really view those endorsements or testimonials or paid advertisements even the same way they would full display ad on a website or full page New York Times ad or a TV or a radio commercial.
Matt with Bernstein Shore, talking about media and marketing. Matt, if I'm just being hypothetical, if I'm a pool services company, summer's coming up, and I use social media hypothetically to kind of say that I'm the best pool service company out there, more attentive, we do a better job, better chemicals, better, cleaner water, and it's really upbeat and it's good, and people go there and they click and then they start booking appointments. Is it worth me putting a disclaimer? This is the opinion of me, the owner. Everything we're saying may not be 100% true, or because sometimes you see these ads. Sometimes you'll see ads on television or radio for big pharma prescription medication. Take this drug for early arthritis or diabetes, and it can do this and this. Not all the results are in yet. And by the way, at the end, they'll do the old, this drug can cause stroke, death, paralysis, whatever, seizures. And it's like, oh, my goodness, why do I want to try this drug? But so they put all these disclaimers in. Does the disclaimers work in social media marketing?
It's a really good point, a really good question. So a couple different things. They do, but I think a sort of rule of thumb to keep in mind is that disclaimers are great, and that's one of the things we do at Bernstein Shore. We'll help draft and review and look at the disclaimers, the fine print, or the legal, or the quick voice at the end of the radio ad. Those are all fine and good, and in some cases, essentially they're required. You mentioned the medical devices and products. There's a lot of specific rules around there, but they can't contradict the claim. They can't say, and by the way, this, everything we just said, just forget that. It actually isn't the best pool product. So it's not a silver bullet, is what we would say. But there's art and science to it. So if some folks may be familiar with the term puffery. It comes from puffing out your chest and just saying, like you said, upbeat, positive. We're the best. And those are okay. Those are fine. But where folks get into trouble is where it's a comparison to their competitors, whether it's actually saying, we're the best pool product, and don't go buy the pool products from Sam down the street
right.
either. But you can just imagine that, my colleague Christina Ferrari was on with you recently. I listened to that interview. It was great, and she said she litigates, she'll go to trial, she'll fight for you, but she also likes to talk to companies to see how they can avoid that even happening in the first place. And so you can imagine one area where there's a lot of fight is where competitors aren't happy with your ad. So if it's upbeat and it's positive and you say you're the best, that's one thing. But if you start implying that others are not the best, then that's where some folks can get into trouble.
Let me ask you this. I don't know who the firm is because I haven't met them, but I always love when you get a phone call from someone or a text saying that they're calling about your warranty for a vehicle you owned 30 years ago. I don't know who these people are, but what about email marketing and sort of text calling marketing? Are there some pitfalls there to be aware of?
Definitely. I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, there are. And email, folks may be familiar, they get emails and they're sort of, used to some language at the bottom allowing them to unsubscribe. That as a very base level, that's one of the rules that's been out there. It's very clear. Interestingly, the text marketing is where there's a lot more risk. There's a lot higher fines. There's actually the FTC can impose fines up to $15,000 per text. Yeah. So that could really add up fast. So the same thing, truthfulness, being able to opt in, opt out. If you're getting a text like that, you should at the very, very least be able to reply stop. And stop receiving that text. So there's definitely some pitfalls there to be aware of, and there's high fines.
Do you ever consult in your practice, because we are a political state, some of these political campaigns, it's technically advertising and marketing, but when they push these polls out, they can also get into some treacherous waters, right?
Yes, they can, but I do know that they do have some exemptions as well. But for the calls and things like people get really upset. But, I think the same principle applies where if you tell someone, hey, I don't want to be on your list, that should be honored and you can get into a do not call list. But interestingly, there are some exceptions for political work here in New Hampshire. And I was telling someone the other day too that, we get annoyed by the knocks on the door and the phone calls and stuff like that. But I think we're also kind of proud of it too as New Hampshire grant staters too, right? Sort of lots of political activity here. So we definitely don't want to tamp down on the sort of freedom of speech aspect of that. And that's why they get to play by some slightly different rules than companies.
Before we let you go, Matt, with Bernstein Shore and your practice on media and marketing, would you work with a business or an individual who has a business sort of reviewing their stuff, taking a look at it, doing an assessment, looking at agreements, marketing agreements, kind of what they're doing, just kind of make them feel that might be worth, I always say, a nominal fee to a good attorney, like a good doctor. It's a good physical. It's a good checkup. Do you do reviews and assessments?
Definitely. Yeah. And we'll look at anything from ads that are coming down the pike to their terms and conditions on their website. Because like you said, technology is everything and that intersects with advertising, marketing a lot. And like you said, agreements too. There's a lot of marketing companies out there Some companies do it in-house themselves. Others work with other companies, outside vendors. So we do the full gamut. We'll review all those agreements. And I like what you said, too. It is sort of like a health check, look under the hood in terms of contracts and terms and conditions. So, yeah, we love working with companies on the front end, and also just in the moment, too. If they've got a new ad campaign or a new text message they want to send their customers, we do that all.
Matt Saldaña, best way to contact you if I'm out there and I want to talk to you about the media marketing practice. You got a great background.
I'd say just go. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Jack. Yeah, just if you go to bernsteinsure.com, look me up. It's Matthew Saldaña. I appreciate you pronounced my name exactly correctly, so thank you. And or just even look up media marketing practice. We got some really great attorneys here, and would love to work with you.
All right, Matt, thank you. We'll get you again real soon. And anything topical, feel free to touch base with the show, because especially with social media, this stuff is changing by the month. We should probably have you do a regular check-in on social media. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Definitely. I love it.
And our friends at Bernstein Shore, thank you.